You ready to do this, Steve?
Let's do it, Spence. Punch it, Chewie.
Welcome, Super Friends, to the Fortress of Nerditude podcast, a safe place to talk about all things in nerd and pop culture. I'm Spencer Stapleton, and my co-pilot, as always, is Steve Madura.
Hey guys, what's up?
We're two best friends that, despite being fathers and husbands, we just refuse to grow up. Thank you for joining us. This is episode number 40. We release every Thursday morning on iTunes, Google Music, and Stitcher, and we are officially over the hill, Steve.
You know, I felt at my hips this morning, my knees, and I started drinking some Mucilex. No, Metamucil, that's what it is. Mucilex. That's for the sinuses.
The old barometer's going down on the pressure. I felt it in my knees.
That's right.
Well, this is one of these rare treats where we get to do a movie club, and Britta is back joining us again. Britta, how are you?
I'm good. Nice to be back.
So, Britta, as always, tell us, how has your week been? What's going on? What's new?
What's new? Oh, gosh, I don't know. We just keep doing projects around the house.
Yep.
Work keeps getting busier and busier. Things are crazy. Yep. That's what's going on.
So, yeah, you guys, Spencer said last week you guys have opted to stay, and so you have suddenly drafted a honey-do list as long as Kris Kringle's Christmas list.
Yeah, except I'm pretty sure he's the one who created the list for the most part.
Ah.
I'm a taskmaster. What can I say?
Nice.
Crack that whip. We gotta paint, woman!
Saturday morning, 8 o'clock. All right, let's go work on our project. Just let me sleep, please.
Good man.
The problem is, there's no sleeping when your kids wake you up at 6:30 on a Saturday morning. It's like, well, we're up. Let's just get up and get something done and get it done as early in the day as we can so then we can relax later and not have to be busting our hump in the hottest part of the day outside. That's my attitude.
I like that. So what was the big project of this week?
I did some degreasing. I know that sounds weird, but the home, we've been in the home now for about 3.5 years, and I think the home was about 8 or 10 years old when we got into it. Mm-hmm. And the previous owner must have used oils and fried a lot of stuff because the tops of the cabinets above the oven, and then we also have this kind of pantry in our kitchen. It's got there's a top to it because there's a wall that separates our front living room and our kitchen, just covered in grease that's been accumulating over the years and dust. And since we're trying to paint this wall that's going to be butting right up against that area, I went and bought some industrial cleaner and spent 2 hours soaking this industrial cleaner in and wiping up and cleaning up all this grease. Let me tell you, the stuff we found, Britta found it online, and I went and picked it up at Home Depot. It's called 505 by Zepp. I don't know, but it's an industrial. Yeah, it's an industrial style degreaser,
something or other.
Man, let me tell you,
sounds like the stuff that made the Joker.
Yeah, it works. Let me tell you, it works.
Acme Chemicals.
I have to tell you, it cracks me up that this is basically the first cleaning he's done in this house.
What?
Is when we all of a sudden decide to paint. He's like, "Oh, let's clean off these cabinets," and I'm like, "I've been saying this for 3 years."
But you ain't been doing.
Oh,
You've been
trying,
saying, but you ain't been doing.
I have been trying to clean those cabinets.
I don't
this
think
is why you don't have a husband and wife
time.
on a podcast together. That oil, though, it is kind of nasty though, because we have the same thing about our microwave and the little hood above our oven.
Yeah.
It is just nasty, and the stuff does not come off. It's different than regular dirt or grease. Oh, it's disgusting.
Dirt and grease combined. I don't know.
I would rather move than clean that stuff. Honestly, you guys made the wrong decision.
Right.
That did weigh into the moving factor.
The top of those cabinets, though, now are so freaking clean. It's awesome. I was like, these were white up here? Wow. Because it looked black. It was.
Is it safe on wood, or did it just bleach the crap out of your cabinet?
No, it's safe
good.
on wood and metal, and we used it on the drywall, so it's...
We used it on paint, and it was
That's
fine.
awesome.
Didn't strip any of that stuff, so it worked great.
Very cool.
Yeah. So now we can finish painting the one wall and then move on to painting the ceilings and then the kitchen.
Very cool.
The other project we worked on this weekend was hanging some of those big hanging shelves that you put in your garage for storage that hang from the ceiling. Yeah, we worked on that. Spence did most of it, I'm not going to lie, but the kids were also running around our feet, and I was trying to keep them occupied.
They had their little, what do they call it, projects?
No, they were playing a game. They were playing a game with all the nuts and bolts from the shelves.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Daddy needs those.
Yeah.
They
were
lose
screwing
a one,
them together
no.
and unscrewing them, and yeah. And I said, what are you doing? They're like, we're playing our game. I'm like, what game? It's like, this game. I was like, okay, boys, and enjoy.
And the game consisted of Jackson having one set of nuts and bolts and Charlie having all the rest of them. It's very fair.
It's called Screw You. You're like, oh, I don't like the name. Hasbro's not picking that up.
It's by Milton Bradley.
Yeah, they'll do anything.
They do Monopoly. Trust me, they know all about screwing people over in games. Parker Brothers
awesome.
ain't got nothing on us. Anyway.
That's awesome. Well, good. Well, I'm glad you guys got something done. Felt kind of productive. It always feels good to feel productive, right? Love that.
Yeah. Well, it's like, if we're gonna do stuff and we're gonna get projects done, it's like, man, let's just jump on it. Let's get it going and let's get something done. So, like, at the end of the day, like, we're tired and sore. Like, you're like, hey, look, we accomplished something. This is something we don't have to do later. I'd rather that than, like, we sat around all weekend, we didn't do it. Now I feel like crap because I've got to do it next weekend. So.
Yep. Very cool. Well, this week was pretty big in the old Madura house. Speaking of getting things done, we started the weekend with a congregation camp out. So families from two different congregations got together, and we had a big camp out, which was fun. We had a good time. I got to actually camp with all of the kids, but about like 2-3 hours after we got there, set up camp, we actually located ourselves like down the trail a little bit into this little like cul-de-sac of campground areas where nobody else really was. And Carrie started feeling really bad. She's like, "Oh, I feel bad. We're not with everybody else." I'm like, No. Come 11 o'clock when those kids are still running about underfoot, I will be asleep. And lo and behold, exactly what happened. These little rugrats were playing football till midnight. I didn't hear any of it. And then the next morning, everybody's like, "Oh, I didn't get any sleep last night. Those kids were up forever." I'm like, "Really? What kids?" And so, but she actually took off because we had a lot to do because we had a big event on Sunday, which I'm going to talk about in a second. But so she took off at around like 7 or 8 o'clock. And so we had 2 tents set up, Daddy's tent and the kids' tent. And they did it so great. So from 4
That's cool.
Nice.
Yeah, from 4 years old all the way up to 11, they slept like babies. It was awesome.
Nice.
So then on Sunday, Alana.
Sunday.
Exactly. Add some effects in that post production. Saturday. It's like some tractor pull. Alana, our now 8-year-old daughter, got baptized, and I had the privilege and honor and unforgettable opportunity to be the baptizer, and it was just a really special experience. We'd been planning it for a long time. 8 years. But Carrie put a lot of work into it. I mean, I handmade like 75 chicken croissant sandwiches with chicken salad inside. My gosh.
Can't you just buy that crap at Costco?
You could, but it's not as good. So, but yeah, it was awesome. We had family and friends. We had neighbors. It was just great. It was awesome. And one that
cool.
she'll never forget. Yeah.
That's awesome, Steve.
So,
congratulations, Alana.
Yeah.
Whoop, whoop.
So a little bit for my week, besides obviously the projects Britta was talking about, my boss had a poker night at his house, and he's like, "Yeah, come on over. I'm making your deep dish Chicago pizza recipe," and I get over there and he pulls them out. I'm like, "Yeah, these look pretty good." but he'd kind of messed up the order a little bit. So basically, he made these really big calzones instead of like deep dish pizza. So anyway, we were laughing about it. But then over the weekend, my mother-in-law, Chris, starts text messaging me. And she says, "Hey, I just listened to the podcast where you're talking about making all this deep dish Chicago pizza. Why have we never had that?" So
legitimate question.
Now she's trying to get me on the hook to making some deep dish pizza over the Christmas holiday when we go up to visit. So, it looks like a more deep dish pizza is on the way in the old Stapleton household.
You know, this is how side hustles start.
What was that, Steve?
I was just saying, like, this is how side hustles start. Like, you start doing a little something, be like, "Hey, man, this is really good, man. You should start a little food truck. Man, you should do that." And suddenly you're Papa John.
Right? Well, I mean, I did manage a pizza restaurant in college. Now, we didn't do deep dish Chicago-style stuffed pizza.
And it was owned by a polygamist, but yes.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just made money. I made pizza. What are you going to say? But, you know, it's one of those things where, like, I wouldn't mind running a pizza restaurant, like having one, but man, that's so much work. And restaurants, you got to be there like all the time. But
yeah,
maybe I'll find a way to like make these pizzas and freeze them and then like sell them, and I can just ship them worldwide. Maybe I just
see this as like Ratatouille when it's like, you know, I forget the guy's name. You know, the main chef.
I've never seen that movie.
Oh my God, are you serious?
Yeah, you've never seen Ratatouille? We watched it with the kids.
No, technically you've watched it with the kids. I slept.
There you go.
Okay, well, you've missed out. If you like original stories and Big Hero 6 and all the rest, you'd love that movie.
Anyway, it's a rat that cooks, right? I mean, that's all I know.
It's amazing.
It's a mouse that rides a steamboat. What the freak? Like, yes, it's a cartoon. Okay. My gosh, man. Have you no soul?
Wait, a mouse that rides a steamboat?
Steamboat Mickey.
Somewhere out there. Fievel? What?
No,
Fievel goes west?
Mickey.
Steamboat Willie.
Fievel goes west.
Jeez.
An American Tale.
Anyway, well, so something could come of it. So yeah, go on Etsy. Maybe you can start selling your wares there.
I don't know if they do food. I'll have to look into that and then do nothing with it. But yeah, sure. I'll look at it.
Well, between that and your hobo coins and your wood burning, you could have a whole thing going.
That's right.
Pizza?
See, this is the thing.
I'll
couple
get a
of
big
weeks.
wooden thing and burn it in, and then I'll ship that with the pizza, like as like a little pizza stone type of deal.
That'd be awesome.
Maybe you never know.
Great.
It's a Etsy trifecta.
There you go. Right. There you go. Well, that was my week, your week, and Britta's week. So let's shift gears and let's do the old Rebel Intelligence. What do you guys say?
Let's do it.
Yeah!
I always have to let you know, many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Rest in peace, you Bothans.
All right, Rebel Intelligence, my favorite part of the podcast.
Mine too.
Britta, you are the guest with us here, so why don't we start with you? What do you have for us?
Okay, so no big surprise. I have news coming out of Disneyland. Mm-hmm. Those of you who know me, you know, that's my thing. So, Star Wars Land, right? Being built. They're working, they got a lot of stuff being built right now. So, recently, Disney cast members, as is being built, like they're building like the largest tower that's in the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge area. And, all the cast members who work at Disneyland got a chance to autograph the steel beams of the
That's cool.
Star Wars thing. Yeah. So there's like, you got to go online, find the picture, but it's just like the beams are just covered with people's autographs. They're writing, you know, making up names for themselves. Like one of the guys signed it as Joe B1 Kenobi. You know, different things like that.
Steve, you know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of back in high school when we were in the theater, like in doing plays and musicals, how you could go back in there and you could like sign your name like backstage, like in the wood shop area or up in the lighting areas.
That's like a thing, huh? Because we did that in my school too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These theater people are so weird.
Right?
Love it.
Gosh.
I read this article as well, and I saw that one person put "live long and prosper." I'm like, ooh, that's cold-blooded.
Cold-blooded.
So it's kind of cool because their names get to be like immortalized in the Star Wars land forever. Like that's kind of awesome. Right. I'm a little jealous about that.
That's
not gonna
pretty
lie.
cool.
That is cool.
Pretty cool. Steve, what do you got?
So
for us?
So this is kind of, I don't know, this kind of irks me. So I read this article that kind of talked about the hot mess that is become kind of the DCEU, the extended universe of DC, and that Warner Brothers is basically in some kind of like subterfuge plot to like spiral and tailspin this whole hot mess. Which
is interesting because wasn't it like a little while ago there was that news report that like Warner Brothers was kind of going hands off and letting Jeff Johns kind of like take the reins and like try to like make some sense of this and like make cohesion. Yeah,
and it is literally the exact opposite. I mean, this article just rattles on all of this. So it talks about Justice League and the sequels out November 17th of this year. It talks about the Aquaman standalone sequence, Shazam and Black Adam, Wonder Woman 2, Cyborg, Green Lantern Corp, Justice League Dark, Flashpoint, Batman as a standalone, Batgirl, Nightwing, Lobo and Deadshot, the Joker movie that's a standalone, as well as the Joker and Harley Quinn movie and the Gotham Sirens, Suicide Squad 2. Anyway, the bottom line is it talks about all of these different movies, some being in the universe, some being out of the universe, some being parallel universe, some being total standalone. And I'm like, if you guys were wanting to mirror what Marvel has done, like keeping this total cohesion, you have totally failed. And basically, It just sounds like they are throwing spaghetti against the wall, and I don't know if anything is going to stick, maybe besides Wonder Woman.
So here's the deal. Like, why would you want to do like a Batman movie or a Joker movie that like does not fit into the continuity of all the other like Justice League movies you're trying to do and the Suicide Squads? And because like we talked last week about the whole Joker origin story movie that isn't going to feature Jared Leto, but then Jared Leto and Margot Robbie are going to have their own Joker and Harley Quinn. Like, why? Why do that? People are going to be confused. It's not going to make sense. Nuts.
I mean, Marvel's mantra has been, it's all connected, and this is literally the exact opposite.
It's all separate.
Yeah, it's
all separate. Everything's different.
Yeah, I mean, you could literally take this movie, this Joker movie, and pull out Joker, and you would just have an action, gritty, hard-boiled crime film set in the early, gritty, urban city of Xville, whatever, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be Gotham, but it doesn't make sense at all. I don't know why they would do that.
Huh. That is
just gets my blood a-boiling.
Really, really weird. Well, like I said, like I like a lot of the DC characters. I mean, definitely the holy trinity of DC, right? Wonder Woman, Superman, and Batman. But, I mean, it's a mess.
It's just a shame. It's just a shame. You thought they were kind of getting things on and started to kind of root for the underdog, and now you're like,
you look at it like if they could pull off what Marvel is pulling off, right? I mean, we know that Marvel's got the big properties that are doing really well, but then they're bringing in like smaller properties like Ant-Man. Ant-Man's not a huge property, but man, that was a great movie, a lot of fun. And, they're going to do a Black Panther movie, and they got the TV stuff that's going on over on Netflix and on some ABC, like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, it's all connected, and they're doing it right. And it's like, man, Batman, you don't want to screw up Batman. You don't want to screw up Superman. Wonder Woman was great. Wonder Woman was excellent. But it's like, they gotta keep that train rolling because that's the only shining star right now. But, like I said, I'm going to try to remain positive because Justice League comes out November 17th, and I want to see it, and I so desperately want to have good things to say about it.
Well, and just as one touch point within that whole hot mess of a story, for instance, Flashpoint, right? So this is one that I know you guys,
Flash,
we talked the Flash, right? We talked about this last week or a few weeks ago with regard to the bend in the universe, right?
Right.
Taken from the comics. But when you just talk about like from the behind the scenes, behind the curtain, so they originally had the first choice of directors as Phil Lord and Christopher Miller. Then they were outed for Seth Graham Smith, who'd done like Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. Then he left in 2016, and then Rick Famuyiwa with Dope something, I don't know, some movie called Dopes, was in, who left last year. And then they've gone to possibly like Robert Zemeckis or Matthew Vaughn or Sam Raimi or like back to Lord Miller again. And it's just like, holy crap. Like people don't want to touch this stuff.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So we'll see how it all shakes out, but it's just, doesn't look good.
I got an article, jumping over to gaming news. So there's this game that came out a little while ago that you guys may have heard about, you may not. It's called No Man's Sky. It was this game that had been like touted for a long time, had a lot of hype. But basically, you're part of this huge, vast universe, and you can like travel and explore, and like you need to get resources to like be able to move from planet to planet. I personally haven't played it, but it looks really cool. But like the idea is that it's so big that like you may never run into any other players because you're playing online. Like you can play this online. But you may never run into other players. Well, there was some people that kind of formed this community online. They found this planet and they created kind of like a hub where you could like come and get all sorts of, materials you needed and things, to help you get on, get further in the game or whatever. And players would be there so you could see people. And, it basically like, it became like a mecca, like a place that players inside the game would try to get to, and they would post pictures in this little community online of like, hey, I finally made it to the Galactic Hub and I made it, over here. Well, this is all kind of like this really cool thing. It's like, created by users who are playing the game, and they, found a way to kind of cobble all this together and make it possible. Well, just recently a new patch was released in the game that like totally like transformed planets and like changed their climate and changed the terrain and changed the type of animals. And basically this planet of a Drogadur, I think that's how it's pronounced, or Drogadur, basically like the planet was like not wiped clean, like it's still there, but like the stars changed around it and like everything kind of changed, and so it's not what it was. And so like now with this huge kind of like community-led initiative is kind of dead, except that these players got together and said, let's go out and find a new planet. And so they're in game finding a new planet that's kind of somewhere near the same vicinity that'll host all the requirements that they need to make kind of a new hub. And I just kind of thought that was kind of a cool idea, like that there's these people that are in the middle of this game that's all about like space exploration and being alone. They've kind of found a way to band together to form a community and a group. And when the game said like, we're going to change that, they're still like working to do that. It kind of reminds me of the Battlestar Galactica that was released in like 2005. Earth gets blown up and they got to go, band together and fly in the universe and find a new civilization and a new Earth. Yeah.
It's kind of funny because I was thinking, as you were talking about that, of our discussion about Ready Player One, about how these people have been kind of living vicariously through, not vicariously, but living in this virtual world and have, banding together, doing all these things. And it just kind of sounded very, very similar to a virtual life. Right. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, there are no zombies in the story, right?
No, there's no zombies in this. At least that I'm aware of.
Not yet.
Yeah. All right, Britta, what do you got for us?
Okay, so Orlando Bloom is
so hot.
Well, obviously. He's gonna
really?
be in
You guys think so?
I like him with his dark hair. When he's like Legolas, not so much. I don't care about that. But, I like him better in Pirates.
I go for the pointy ears. Yeah. What can I say?
What, Steve? Oh my gosh. Okay, so he's gonna be in this like a fantasy crime detective movie. TV show, actually. I think it started out as a movie and then it turned into a TV show that I guess Amazon has picked up. I think it's called Carnival Row, and it's basically set in like this like fairy world, and that's like the old school fairy, like the FAE kind of fairy, if you know what I'm talking about. Like those of you who know what I'm talking about know what I'm talking about.
The fae.
Yeah.
Yeah, the fae.
So, but it's set in like it's like set in like the 19th century in London. And apparently his character's name is, what people are kind of thinking is a little crazy. His character's name is Rycroft Philostrate.
That sounds very British.
Right?
Right?
Well, you know,
like...
Rycroft, we've heard that before, right? That's like, Sherlock Holmes' brother.
That's Mycroft.
Oh, I guess that's true. That's right.
Fairly close,
well,
though.
Close
That's
enough.
Close.
Mycroft, Rycroft, Bycroft, Tycroft. I mean, whatever.
You replace one letter, it's the same. But, you know, and I've heard, you know, Philo and stuff, but I don't know. That's a strange name.
Pilo.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that. Yeah, anyways, I don't know. It sounds interesting. It sounds like a kind of show that I would probably enjoy watching if it's not too gritty. But, I don't know.
Well, and also, I was going to say, also nice that, you know, that you now have the name of your next born son. So that's nice. Kind of check that one off the list.
Yeah, there you go.
Philo Finkelstein.
I was thinking of like Bruce, Incredible Hulk, Banner, Stapleton or something maybe. I don't know.
I thought you were still on James Tiberius Stapleton.
Oh no, if I can convince you to let me have sole naming rights, yeah, it's James Tiberius Stapleton.
Why would I ever let you have sole naming rights? I don't know what you would do to our children.
Crazy.
I'll promise you something. We'll make a barter system.
I promise you something.
You do all the diapers for the next 4 years.
I think Steven is a pretty good name, if I do say so myself. And speaking of that, entree, Stephen King's It has received first-round reactions from Twitter. So they let it kind of get out for a special preview prior to
media
the press
preview,
junket.
right?
Yeah, before kind of the press junket. And I got to tell you, overwhelmingly positive response. The reactions are off the hook. Everybody says, and it's funny because I read through like 30 different responses, and a bunch of people are saying it's terrifying, but it's also hilarious. And it's like, it's got heart, but it's also horrific. And I'm not just using alliteration here. So I was like, you know what? It's been a few podcasts a few episodes since I watched this, and I want to get back into it. So I watched the trailer again, and right before we started recording tonight, no joke, had like goosebumps. Wow, freaky. There's a lot of nostalgic jumpiness.
Are you going to go see that movie?
No, probably not. Because I
don't even want to watch the preview.
Ooh. But yeah, it was freaky as all. I mean, clowns and like children in the horror movies, like those are the two freakiest things. Give me an axe wielding like adult, that's fine. But a clown? I don't know.
See, clowns don't bug me, but I don't like horror or scary stuff. So for that reason, I won't go see it.
Ah, okay.
Now, we must admit, like, we did grow up, like, in the Chicagoland area. It's like John Wayne Gacy. That hits a little close to home for us.
I thought you were going to go to Bozo and be like, oh, we really loved clowns. You know?
Oh, dude, there's nothing wrong with Bozo.
McDonald's was started here.
Prize game. Anyway.
Yeah, so, his wife actually gave my wife voice lessons. Bozo's wife.
Which Bozo?
The first one. And then he moved to California, and she stopped voice lessons.
Huh. Because there's two Bozos. Like, there's the Bozo that people that are older than us would know. And then there's the one that we grew up.
Then it was probably the one
mostly
that
on.
we knew. Yeah, probably the one that we knew, not the original black and white Bozo.
Right.
I just feel bad, like you're talking bad about somebody like that bozo.
Right.
He actually was bozo. Yeah. So anyway, so what do you have for us, Spence? What are you rounding out the...
So over the weekend was the big Floyd Mayweather Conor McGregor fight. And of course, like this matchup where you got Floyd Mayweather, a boxer who's 40 years old, he's 49-0, going up against Conor McGregor, who's like this big UFC fighter, mixed martial arts. And this was a purely boxing match on pay-per-view. And let's not kid ourselves. This was made for money. Like McGregor was guaranteed like $30 million for the fight, and Mayweather was guaranteed like $100 million for the fight. Jeez. And it actually went 10 rounds. And here's the funny thing, like Britta and I didn't pay for the pay-per-view. I really had no real big intention of watching it because I figured like most of the analysts were saying that Mayweather's going to destroy Conor McGregor because even though Mayweather's getting older, it's a purely boxing match. Conor McGregor's got dangerous hands. He can really hit someone hard, but he's not going to be able to do all the MMA stuff. So he's going to have to stay on his feet and have to like box with the big boxing gloves on, not the little 4-ounce, almost non-existent MMA gloves.
Right.
But here's the cool thing. Like I was flipping through Twitter, like right before the fight started, and someone over in England had set up their phone like on a little tripod and faced it right at their TV that they'd paid for the pay-per-view. And then they were live streaming from their phone on Periscope to Twitter the fight. And so Britta and I watched the entire fight uninterrupted on pay-per-view through Twitter through this guy that was Periscoping it live. So we got to,
how was the resolution and all that?
The quality was pretty good. I mean, a couple times when a lot of people started jumping on at the same time, it would go down a little bit. But I mean, there was like 45,000 people watching this stream at one point, right towards the end of the fight.
Yeah, it was nuts.
Yeah, and McGregor lost. It was TKO in the 10th round. But like Conor McGregor probably won like the first probably 3, maybe even 4 rounds on the judges' scorecard. Is just my guess like what it would have been, because he was throwing some bombs and landing some good hits against Mayweather. But the problem is that Mayweather just withstood the barrage.
Took him.
And Conor McGregor started getting tired, and you could see his hands were, up near his chin. And all of a sudden, next thing you know, his hands are like starting out like mid chest, and then eventually they were like down near his waist, and he was just kind of moving around, and then he'd, hit. But like when your hands are that low, it takes a lot longer to get your hand up there. And against a seasoned veteran like Mayweather, he was just slipping and dodging and ducking. And
there's such a difference between MMA fighting and boxing. Like you could see the MMA coming out in him all the time, but also the fact that like normally he's doing like 3 5-minute rounds, and boxing is like 12 like 3-minute rounds.
Yeah, like
that's a lot more time. So it was you could see him just getting worn out really quick, and it was a good fight though. I mean, I'm not big on boxing. I'd rather watch MMA, but I liked it.
Everybody said it was very entertaining, and wasn't this fight like actually like spawned from like a proposed, almost like a joke from Conan O'Brien?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Like 2 years ago, Conan O'Brien kind of joked about it and brought it up, and Conor McGregor's like, "Yeah, I'll do it." He's like, "Totally, let's do it." So
that's funny. I didn't know that.
For $130 million split between the two of us, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, it was just a matter of making it the right payday, right? Last thing I've got. So obviously, if you guys have been watching the news over the weekend, there's a hurricane that was making landfall in Texas. And so a lot of people in the Houston area are underwater and, being evacuated, and people are stuck. And so like our hearts go out to those people. But the city of Austin, Texas, like put up this, this billboard basically saying like, something to the effect of like, don't worry, fans, we're going to try to make sure that we keep the internet on and keep the power going so you can watch the Game of Thrones finale on Sunday night. And because, and then people on Twitter were like, I hope this weather doesn't affect my Game of Thrones. I got to see what happens with Daenerys and Jon Snow. And so, of course, the cities, kind of doing this tongue in cheek. They still, had the numbers for emergency services listed and all of that. But, a lot of people were preparing for, horrible things happening. But then there's other people in Texas that are like, I just don't want this affecting my TV. I got to see my Game of Thrones. And so like from like the pop culture, side of things, like it's kind of a funny thing. But I mean, from the human side of things, like there's a lot of people that are, aren't going to be coming home. I read an article today about a police officer who went out in the morning. His wife was trying to like convince him not to. And he's like, people need help. And he like never made it back home. So like,
yeah, that was sad.
It's like that, there is that stuff going on, and a lot of people in Texas and now Louisiana, because I guess the storm started pulling back, are in harm's way. So our thoughts and prayers go out to everyone. Stay
Absolutely.
safe, stay dry, get to higher ground. Don't take any unnecessary risks, and just hunker down and stay safe.
Yeah, man. It's they say that this is actually worse than Katrina, being that Katrina, the day after the flood and the levee broke, it was blue skies and sunshine, whereas this has been like 4 days of continual rain. I mean, it's like 52 inches, I think, has fallen.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah, I saw a thing they had to add like new colors to the national weather map for the depth of the water they have. They didn't have a color for that. It's so deep. Like, it's crazy.
And a big part of the problem down there is that you've got a lot of hard soil. And when you get that much rain, like the ground just can't absorb it. It just can't absorb it all. So like it just, you get standing water. There's nowhere for it to go. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's going to take a while down in that region. We've got family that live down in San Antonio. My boss's family lives down in Houston. So, anyway, thoughts and prayers going out to all those people. Stay safe, guys.
Yeah.
Yep.
Last week we had a conversation about the Super Nintendo and the mess that the pre-order was, and Josh Stapleton joined us, and we asked a question. We said, how much are you willing to pay for a Super Nintendo? Like, how crazy, how, what are you going to do? Like, if you can't get one, how far, what's your extreme? Like, what are you going to do in order to get one? And we got a lot of responses. We're going to start on Twitter. We're going to start with Skinny Matt at Skinny_Matt K. He says, I won't be putting anywhere near the effort I got when I got a NES Classic. If I happen to see one in the wild, I'll pick one up. Moving over here. Let's see here. Moving over to Twitter again. Trash Turkey at Trash Turkey says MSRP. So he's only going to pay the $80 they're asking for it. No more, no less.
Yep.
Grouchy Surge at Backlog_Blues says, it's more a matter of need. I'm willing to sacrifice small farm animals to appease the gods. Maybe even willing to lose one of my testes. That, my friend, is some dedication. Yes. Cal at Cal Zero says, I'm willing to pay $79.99. If I'm walking in a store or online and see the opportunity, I'll grab one. But that's it. Ken L at Kenneth DL says, I got a pre-order. If it gets canceled, I'll only pay retail price. No way I'm giving scalpers money. I'm with you there.
Good for you.
Yeah. And then Tweak at Tweak_17 at Tweak_17 says, as much as I wouldn't wanna, I would pay up to £250 for one if needs must be. Now I did a little conversion because, we're in the US and so I don't understand. Because I'm an ignorant American, I have no concept of what pounds is to US dollars. So I looked it up.
I'd walk 72 kilometers for that.
With the current exchange rate, 250 pounds works out to be something like $325 US.
Wow.
Now, that's things I want one of these bad. and Nintendo's saying that they're going to have more in store, and I'm hoping that's true. I can't see myself paying that much. I mean, I won a NES Classic, and I missed it. And I'm keeping my eye and my ear to the ground, trying to find one, even a used one. And even used ones on eBay, people are asking like $200 for them. It's like, dang, that thing sold for $60. Just, $200 is way too much in my opinion, even for used. If it was like new in the box, maybe. Yeah. Probably not, but maybe. Used, come on. Going over to the email, Peter Christensen. This is a little lengthy, so we'll do with this here. Dear nerds, Steve, I bet Carter leveraged your offer by telling you the other kids he'd pay them 5 cents for the tidbit of info. Also, there's only been one Ultimate Warrior. So remember you told the story about, giving Carter a dime for each kid that, he meets someone new.
Right. He went to the Yellow Pages.
Yeah.
I was like, dang him.
He says to me, if I'm trying to catch up on the Marvel Netflix stuff, that I can basically skip the second half of Luke Cage after a major turning point mid-season thing happens. He says no spoilers. He says as for King of Kong, it's a great movie, but he hated Billy Mitchell more than any on-screen character until Spider-Man Homecoming, when Flash pushed ahead of the girls in the Washington Monument elevator. So, responding to the question, he says, the Nintendo shortages are maddening. Buzz doesn't do any good if there's nothing left to sell. I've heard that for the NES Classic at least. There was some cheap chip that they used that had a limited quantity available. Making more would have to change the price point. It's like the McRib of consoles. He says, as far as the Super NES, I would buy one of these at retail price if I could order from Amazon. I will not pay more, and I will not wait in the cold or scour the countryside for one. Also, give the podcast a rating in iTunes, so the Fortress of Nerditude won't be as hard to find as a Super Nintendo Classic. Thanks.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks for another great episode. Thanks, Peter. Appreciate it.
Nice.
I'm with most people. I'm going to pay MSRP for one. I'm going to, if I can't, if pre-orders don't open back up and I can't pre-order one, I'm going to go early. I think I may take a half day off, or at least take part of a day off until I can get one, and then I'll go back to work. Take a couple hours. But, I want one. I do not want to miss out on this. So, and it sounds like a lot of people kind of feel the same way. They're willing to get one at MSRP, but not many people. There was a few, but not many people said they're willing to pay over sticker price for something like that.
Yeah, stick to your guns, people. I would don't fall prey to those dang scalpers.
Right. Well,
embolden them.
We appreciate you guys answering our question of the week. You can always reach us on Twitter at ForwardOfNerd or Facebook.com/ForwardOfNerd, or the old Gmail. You can drop us a line by email for the long form answer, and that's ForwardOfNerd@gmail.com. Steve, our super friends are always doing good for us. They're always answering questions and participating. But how can our super friends help us find more super friends?
They can rate us on iTunes, so the Fortress of Nerditude isn't as hard to find as the Fortress of Solitude.
Classic. I love it.
Classicness.
I love it. So, we, of course, have Britta on, which means we are doing a movie club. Now, we did talk last week. We kind of put it out to the super fans, to the super friends, to get some ideas, and we got a lot of really good ideas. And we discussed and we talked about things, but ultimately we decided on settling on a movie that we thought would work well, that we've kind of talked about and hinted and wanted to talk about for a while, but we just kind of hadn't got to it yet. So this week we are going to do, for the month, the movie Split, which came out earlier this year, back in January. Now, Britta's already shaking her head. So Britta, without getting into plot or without getting into details or anything, just give me your impressions, because you're already shaking your head at us.
Oh, yeah. I just have to say that, Steve, I was told this was your idea to watch this movie, and I have to say, I hate your stinking guts. First of all, I hate scary movies. I hate horror things. I hate them. I hate them. I hate them. I hate them.
To be fair, this isn't a horror movie, though.
Whatever,
That's
it's
right.
a horror movie.
It's billed as a horror, but it shouldn't be.
It gave
and
me
it's
nightmares.
Really your
it's a horror movie.
fault. It's your husband's fault because, again, he came on the podcast like 6 months ago. Maybe
I know, I remember.
4 months ago, it was like, this is a great movie. We should watch it sometime. So I hadn't seen it until, days ago. But, yeah, so I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, loved it.
So
I have strong feelings about this movie.
So Split is billed as a psychological horror / thriller film, but for me, like, I felt it was more like a suspense film. Like, I didn't really think there was like any like real horror element to it because it's not like a blood and gore movie. Because I hate that kind of stuff, and I would not have watched it if it was that. And
right.
And I feel like with these podcasts where we do the movie club once a month, I want to pick a movie that like I can watch and enjoy or not enjoy, but like I could recommend to our listeners, to our super friends, and give an honest opinion. And I could never do that with a horror film. That's why, like, when you talk about the movie It and the news that it's coming out, like, if there's anyone on the podcast that's going to see it, it's going to be you, because it sure as heck isn't going to be me.
Yeah, I'm not even going to watch the preview for that movie, let alone the movie itself. Like, I can't even handle.
You'd never go near water again.
Mm-mm. Ugh.
Well, I gotta say, like, before we get into the plot and all the rest, that I really, really genuinely enjoyed this movie. And it's easy, I think, when we get on these podcasts to, or when we review anything, it's always easy to, pitch yourself as clever and funny by finding all the things that went wrong with it or that weren't good. But I gotta say, it's nice every once in a while just to be like, you know what? That was just really good. And it was well done. And it was just, anyway, you see a lot, I see a lot of stuff that's okay. And I just walked away being like, that was a well-written movie. The acting I thought was phenomenal. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But just overall, like, it did exactly what it was supposed to do. And I walked away being like, wow. That was got in there, got in my head.
Okay, so I'm going to give you like the bare bones description of the plot, and then we can expand a little bit. Now, since we do this with our movie clubs, we will wait to hold off till the very end to talk about any like real specific plot points or spoilers, just in case there are people that still haven't seen it. But this is basically the gist of the movie. There's a man who has 23 different personalities who kidnaps and imprisons 3 teenage girls in an isolated underground facility. That is like the bare bones of like what this movie is, right? I mean, is there anything, I mean, like just anything I'm missing there, like as far as what it is?
I would say, and this isn't revealing too much, but they have to work out, which of these personalities will help them and which of these personalities will not.
Right.
Correct.
So the movie for me, the movies in something like this, it's almost like a TV episode that's like a bottle episode where like the entire episode's done like in one location. They shoot on like basically just like in one single room and they save money, right? That's a bottle episode in TV. And it kind of felt like this in this movie because really like there's a little scene like at the mall in the very beginning. And then the rest of the scene is pretty much in like 2 locations. It's in this underground like facility in this one room, for the most part, or it's in this doctor's office because this man, his name is Kevin in the movie, that has the 23 different personalities. He goes and he sees a psychiatrist. And so like you see stuff like inside of her office, but that's pretty much it. Like it obviously there's not a lot of locations in this movie. So when you have something like this, it really comes down to casting, and it comes down to your choice of actors and actresses to carry the movie. It's like Steve, we've talked about over and over and over again, like the movie Castaway, right? A majority of the time it's just Tom Hanks and a volleyball.
Yeah.
And he's got to carry that whole film. but of course Tom Hanks is an amazing actor, and so he can carry a film for 2.5 hours where he's the only one talking. So Steve, talk to me about the casting in this movie.
Okay, so the lead, Kevin, who has the 23 personalities, stars James McAvoy, which, you know, I've seen him in some things, and I have to say that, you know, while he does some big stuff here and there, he does a lot of little stuff, just kind of does what interests him, what, you know, unique roles. He picks a lot of different and unique and challenging roles, and I would say that this, obviously playing 23 different characters, and I don't think he plays them all. You know, he doesn't get to all of them in the movie.
No, you see maybe 5
like
of them.
6?
Yeah.
5 or 6, yeah. But, yeah, but how he toggles between them throughout the movie, and towards the end it gets quicker and quicker, I think was phenomenal. And I think, you know, to that point of the example of Castaway, that this movie would not have worked at the highest level without an actor like James McAvoy to pull it off.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, even though the type of movie and like the feel of the movie, I like totally just it just creeps me out and I hate it. I mean, it was a very well made movie, and James McAvoy was amazing in that movie. Like,
absolutely.
Just he like had the not only the different like speaking patterns, accents for every different identity, physical presence of every different identity. Like, they each had their own little quirks of how they moved their hands or how they spoke, like very detailed things about these different identities within Kevin. Just very impressive the way he could change each one of those and really make you believe that he was all these different people. It was really great. I was very impressed.
So let me ask this: I don't know if you guys noticed this, but as we've talked about this and as I was thinking about this before the show, how did you react physically or emotionally or whatever, mentally, to his different characters? Did you find yourself having a different feeling or a different like?
Yeah. So when this isn't going to get too far into the spoilers, but when his character, the identity of Mr. Dennis, is there, like, he seems creepier, like he comes across as like a stronger male character, and, you know, more physically intimidating, and so like I always kind of felt like you felt like an underlying like aggression and tension there, and he was kind of like OCD about cleanliness. But then when he switches over to be Miss Patricia, like, Miss Patricia's like, even though things are going on that you're not okay with in the film, like, she's just kind of like, the way James McAvoy played this, like, you know, kind of like the, hey there, you know, and like this little like little like way he, like, you know, would like kind of purse his lips and like shrug his shoulders and just make it seem like it was almost like a Southern belle, like an aged Southern belle that had some, like, you know, like, honey child, don't you worry, I'll take care of you. And then when the first time you meet Hedwig, which is the character of like the 9-year-old that has some like mental development issues, like he hasn't like that character hasn't like moved past 9. Like, I physically like laughed out loud like the first time Hedwig starts talking, because he just plays it like a little 9-year-old kid. Yeah. It's like, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to get me into trouble, etc.? I love that.
Adds that onto everything. It's just such a kid thing to do. You know?
Like, it's, you know, little kid learned a new word, and so he's playing with it. It was great. Like, but he did do that. Like, so like I did find myself reacting differently to the different personalities, and that would not be possible if James McAvoy was just a run-of-the-mill actor. I mean, he did some amazing work.
Yeah.
So when he comes in and out of the room, because again, as Spencer said, they're encapsulated, they're imprisoned in this one particular room, then they get separated later in the movie. But he goes in and out, and he'll come in different clothes and whatnot. But it's fairly quick as he comes in and out. And I felt myself like on the edge of my seat at one point when it was like Dennis or one of the more dominant personalities, more threatening. And then when Hedwig would come in, I kind of sit back and I kind of laugh, and it was just amazing as I kind of, you know, self-introspected. I'm like, whoa, it's amazing that same actor within a scene can make you react so differently to the exact same person.
Hedwig's dancing, right? That's when you started laughing. Hedwig's dancing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To what?
best.
What was he?
Kanye
West.
West.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
So,
and then I thought as well. I was going to say just some of the other actors and actresses that were in this movie. I had never seen. Is it Anya Taylor-Joy, who plays Casey Cook in the movie?
Right.
Yeah.
She was phenomenal. I thought she was really good.
She was great.
And she's blowing up right now.
Is she? Is she?
Yeah.
What else is she?
I don't know off the top of my head what she's in. I mean, I could look it up, but I know that she's like, I've seen her in like trailers and previews for other stuff right now. Like I think like her career's starting to pick up. So she's a young actress.
And what's interesting, I looked her up, and she has like her background is like she's an American-born Argentine British actress, and her father's like Scottish Argentinian. I'm like, that's a cool mix.
Yeah,
she's got a different look to her. You can't really place where she's from, which obviously that's why.
Right. Sure. And then like Betty Buckley, which is the lady that played the doctor, the psychiatrist. Like, I don't know that I recognized her from anything, but like I really enjoyed her portrayal of that character because she was trying to portray a character who believes all of the personalities that Kevin has and like doesn't judge him, is like trying to help him. Like I felt from her performance like that she was that character. Like she really cared about Kevin and what was going on and trying to understand, and like she knew the different personalities so well that like she could detect differences and changes, and like she was a very, very convincing in her role. And I thought she did an excellent job. I'm glad they didn't use someone who, like, I'm glad they didn't use like Julia Roberts, and try to make her, the lady or whatever.
Yeah, that wouldn't have been as believable.
Or Judi Dench or somebody that's more well known. I think.
Right.
I liked that.
So something here that we haven't really talked about, but this movie was written and directed by M. Night Shyamalan. Did you catch the cameo he had in the movie? Because he does a cameo in every one of his movies. Yeah. Did you catch it?
It's funny because on IMDb it says Buffalo Wild Wing guy.
Right, but he's not talking about...
I'm sorry. It says Hooters lover.
Yeah, because he's got like a bucket of wings in front of him, and he's talking with the psychiatrist, and he's like looking at the security footage, and she's like, "So you like to go to this place where big women's breasts are on display?" And he's like, I like the wings, doctor. And she's like, it doesn't have anything to do with your mother, And he's like,
right, exactly.
He's like, they've got good wings, doctor. And like, he just kept sticking to that line. And I know it wasn't meant to really be a moment of like, humor and levity, but like it was kind of at the same time. Cause it's kind of like the old, you'd hear guys say like, I just get Playboy magazines for the articles cause I read them. Right. It's kind of the same thing. It's like, I just go to Hooters because I enjoy the wings. Anyway.
Yes, the wings aren't that good.
No, not at all.
So speaking of M. Night Shyamalan, I'm going to ask this to Britta, but I think I know the answer. Are you a fan? Are you a fan of some of his work?
Generally, yeah. I actually...
You are? Okay.
Oh, yeah. Like his earlier stuff, I love Sixth Sense. I really enjoyed The Village. Like, some of that stuff, like... what was it, like Unbreakable, like some of those, like I really like those movies.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I really do. But to me, there's a difference. And I can't really go into that at this particular moment because I don't want to spoil anything.
Yep.
But one of the things I'll say, the reason I like this movie less is like I said, it's done really well. I really think it's a really well-made movie. But for me, I don't like it as much because I really don't like abduction movies. I don't care for those. Yeah. Like they're too real to me. And like Sixth Sense, like a kid who sees dead people, that's not real to me. Like that can't, in my mind, actually happen. Whereas being abducted by some creeper, that totally is real to me. So I can't like handle it. It's just bleh.
So here's the thing I liked about this movie, as far as like the M. Night Shyamalan-ness of it. His early movies, like he really kind of did this thing in his storytelling where he'd tell a story, and you think you know what he's trying to do the whole way, and then at the very end he throws this big twist that makes you like reevaluate everything you thought or the preconceived notions you had about the entire film. And he did that over and over and over again in his early works. And he became kind of known for it and became kind of a one-trick pony, in my opinion. So much that like he actually stopped getting a lot of like Hollywood offers and wasn't making as much. Like he was really hot for a good, 8-10 years and then just almost disappeared. And like, it wasn't this movie Split, but there was another movie recently that he was involved in. Like he didn't even put his name on it.
Right,
it was the Will Smith one where he was Will Smith and his kid Jaden Smith, and they were like the last two people on Earth or something. Like I think that was it. It was an M. Night Shyamalan movie, but like his name was nowhere on it because he didn't want people thinking it was going to be this. Well, we got to wait for the big twist at the end, and then look back at the whole movie and realize, Will Smith has been dead the whole time. Yeah, it's a dream. Whatever. But what I liked about this movie is that doesn't happen in this movie. Like there's, the movie is what the movie is, and it's not like you get to the end and it's like you got to wait for some big twist ending that's going to make you reevaluate everything. That did not exist, which I actually thought made this movie a lot better, because if there would have been something like that, it would have completely changed the tone of the whole film, and I think it wouldn't have worked as well. So I'm kind of glad that maybe he's gotten away from that storytelling style, maybe is a way to put it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, in fairness, obviously there can't spoil it, but there is something that happens, but you're right. It's not like it has been before. It's not like a Signs or The Village or Sixth Sense or
Unbreakable.
Unbreakable. It's more subtle than that. And but it still is kind of a cool nugget at the end. One of the other things that I really love about M. Night Shyamalan movies is that there's a lot of subtleness to them, right? So this had aspects, and there are points in this movie when it could have been much more physically, visually, and I don't really care to see that either, even though I've watched tons of them. I'm kind of like Spencer. I don't need to see that. Right. And what I love about M. Night Shyamalan movies is that he is subtle enough where, it's almost scarier, or it's almost more thrilling or more suspenseful, insinuating what's going on, as opposed to showing the gore and the whatever else, or the, whatever. And he does a great job at that. I think this film has a lot of moments where, you could jump and just it has a lot of tension building moments. And I think he's really good at that. And I almost feel like this movie was kind of almost like a kind of a comeback movie, right? Because I think like some of the most recent movies, I hadn't seen the one with Will Smith and his son, but I didn't even see Lady in the Lake or Lady in the Water.
Lady in the Water. Yeah.
Didn't even see that one. I didn't even see it. So, but I was really happy to see, because I really have liked his earlier work, to see that he put something out there that a lot of people, I think, overwhelmingly enjoyed and has been well reviewed.
So would you say this movie was scary, or would you say it's suspenseful?
Suspenseful for me. I was going to let Britta answer first. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I'd also say it's suspenseful, definitely. Just, I don't know.
I think the subject matter made it suspenseful, but I also thought like they did a real good job with the soundtrack. Like there's no like big identifiable, like, catchy, hooky, songs. It's all just like, a lot of, music and mood music and stuff like that. So something interesting, the movie was only made for $9 million, but it made $276 million worldwide. I'd say that's a pretty good return on investment, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's successful. My goodness.
Welcome back, Mr. Shyamalan.
Right. Yes. So let's stop here. Let's give a review, and then we can get into talk about some of the spoiler things. Britta, would you recommend people watch the movie Split?
Okay, if you like this type of movie, you like kind of creepy, suspenseful, whatever stuff, totally watch it. Very well made. Like, if I like this kind of movie, I would give it 2 thumbs up. I just don't care for this type of movie, so I wouldn't recommend it. Like I told my mom, you'd hate this movie, don't watch it. But if this is your kind of thing...
I don't think so.
You don't think
I
so?
think
What?
she'd be okay with this.
No, I described it to her, and she was just like, "Oh, that sounds so horrible. I don't want to watch that at all. I'm not even going to listen to the podcast because I never want to see that movie." That's what she said, just like that.
If she wants deep dish Chicago stuffed pizza, she'll watch it.
Oh, I knew it was coming out.
Well, you tell her that.
Anyways, Steve,
right.
What about you?
I thought the script was tight. I thought the movie had a lot of memorable moments. I thought that there was warmth, there was funny, there was some very, very serious topics addressed in the whole context of the movie, which we'll talk about, in just a bit. I thought M. Night Shyamalan, it was right down the middle. If you're a fan of his previous work, I think you will love this movie. And I think that, I would say 2 thumbs way up. I think, and it has a nice little nugget at the end for you. So.
I'd recommend this movie. I like movies that are suspenseful, thrillers, but not the scary horror stuff. Kind of like the movie Alien. Like, I loved that movie. It's not really a horror movie, but it's a more suspense movie. So I definitely recommend this to people. But I agree with you, Steve. I mean, there's some adult kind of themes, some rougher source material that's addressed inside of this movie. Especially, we've kind of talked about the multiple personalities, with some of the mental disorder type stuff. But I definitely would recommend it to friends or to someone looking for a good movie. And there's a real big reason I would recommend it that we will get to here in just a moment.
I do have to say, last night, woke up about 3 a.m. One of the kids woke up and I had to put him back to bed. Got back in my bed, and then this movie popped into my mind, and I couldn't stop thinking about it, and I was freaked out, and it took me like an hour or longer to get back to sleep because I was freaking out about, I don't know, this multiple personality person being in my house or something. I don't know, and every little sound, I was like, someone's coming to eat me. Like, that's just what I think.
Did Spencer roll over in like a jumpsuit and be like, "Hey, so you want to listen to my Conway West CD in my room?" You're like,
no, but if a movie keeps me up at night, I'm not watching it again.
See, but now you've seen it though, so there's nothing to surprise you or to be suspenseful about.
No,
so
still can't do it.
Thank you for watching it for me, Britta. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Taking one
Steve.
for the team.
Well, let's kind of wrap this up here, and then we will get into the kind of spoiler zone where we can talk about some other things, and we can definitely talk about the big thing that a lot of people are talking about when this movie came out. So I'd recommend it. Steve would recommend it. Britta would not recommend it. That seems to be the thing. So 2 out of 3 podcasters would recommend this film to their friends and family. Going forward with this movie club, when we do these, like, I think that should always be something we look at as, who would we recommend it to? Like, people that like this, like Britta says, like, if you're into like, suspense and thrillers, like, those type of people, we'd recommend it to. But if you're like my mother-in-law, Britta's mom, who's a scaredy cat, who won't watch things like, I Am Legend.
Oh, horrible.
Like, she won't watch this.
No, horrible. Awful.
And once again, that's not a horror movie either. That's just suspense.
I don't know. It was terrifying to me. It was terrifying. I watched the whole thing in the movie theater with a coat over my head. Not even kidding.
Yeah.
And next month we're watching Saw.
Right.
I quit.
Right, exactly.
Well, if you don't want to see or don't want to listen to spoilers, you can't see them. But if you don't want to listen to the spoilers, thanks for joining us. We appreciate you coming every week and spending a little bit of your time here with us at the Fortress of Nerditude. And feel free to sign off now. But if you want to hear our take on some of these spoiler aspects of this movie, hang around, and we're going to bring it to you right now. Okay, guys, so in this movie, you got Kevin, who's got these multiple personalities, and he kidnaps these 3 girls. originally it was going to be 2 girls, but there was 3 girls together, because he says that there's a 24th personality that's coming and is going to come and break free and join the group. And this 24th personality, the big thing in the movie is like each of these personalities, they believe they are who they are. And it's like one personality like has diabetes, none of the other ones do, so that personality has to take insulin shots. The 24th personality, the one they call the Beast, it has what they say skin like a rhino, like a rhinoceros, like super tough. Has the ability to cling onto walls and climb with just the smallest little, imperfections like in the wall it can hold on. Super strong. It's taller than the rest. And
fingers twice as long, hairy.
Right. Now, when the Beast finally does emerge, they also say that part of the thing is like the Beast has to like feast on the innocent.
The impure young.
The innocent are impure, the impure young. And that's the reason why Kevin, with his multiple personalities, Mr. Dennis primarily, kidnaps these 3 girls so when the Beast emerges, he can feast, like literally eat these young women.
Ew.
Now that's kind of creepy.
That's the grossest thing
part's
ever.
the disturbing part. That's the
it's really kind of disturbing. But when the Beast does come, like the way that James McAvoy portrays him, like he's freaky. Like I was like, oh my goodness, this is intense. Like it just was, woo.
It's like pure like animal in like a human, but like just I don't even know how to describe it. It's just
right.
Yeah, crazy.
But it's interesting though because Kevin is underneath like the Philadelphia Zoo, and so like that's kind of like where he drew the inspiration and from the Beast. And you find out that like Kevin had been abused by his mother, like physically abused, not in a necessarily like a sexual abuse type of way, but more like just a beating, like a physical abuse that way, like at a really young age.
A wire hanger.
Yeah, a wire coat hanger, like and she would whip him with.
You see his hands are all scarred and everything when he turns back into Kevin.
Right.
So you get that feeling of, and that's how some of these identities, it's called dissociative identity disorder, and that's how some of these identities came to be. And it sounds like Dennis was maybe one of the first ones who kind of came to help protect Kevin from this trauma that was caused by his mother and the abuse that he was suffering her, because when the room was clean or a mess was made or something like that, that's what caused her to lash out on him physically. And that's how like Dennis came, because he's the strong one. He can keep everything neat and tidy and clean. Like that's why he's the OCD guy, like all that kind of stuff. So it's very...
Did it just make you want to like hold your kids... And it's very clinical,
the way that... What?
A little closer. Did it just make you want to hold your kids a little bit closer? Like after you watched that movie and you kind of saw like the abuse that he went through as a kid, I was like, oh, I just want to hold my boys and let them know that I love them. Like that was my reaction.
Yeah.
And then your son's like, I'm the Beast. You're like, ah.
And then he bites you.
Made me think I'm sorry for all the times I yelled.
Yeah, right. So this is going on, but like there's the other aspect of what's her name? It's
Casey.
Casey. Like you kind of see like these like little like flashbacks to like her with her dad and her uncle like hunting out in the forest and trying to kill a deer and all this. And then you get to this part where you realize that the uncle is sexually abusing her when she was really, really little.
Like
and
6 or something.
Yeah, and you figure out later, like that later plays into the idea. You realize that like that's why she doesn't fit in at school. That's why she doesn't really have any friends. That's why she intentionally like acts out and acts up to go to detention so she can just be by herself, because she's having a hard time adapting to, and trying to deal with what's been going on in her life. And so that's why at the end of the movie, when the beast has gotten loose and has killed the other two girls and started eating those girls, when he comes after her and sees that she has all these like scars where she's been cutting on herself, like cutting on her stomach and cutting on her arms and like cutting like up around like her like clavicle area and her shoulders. Like he realizes that she is what he calls pure because she's broken, because she's not, she's experienced hardship, because that's, because he's gone through he's gone through physical abuse and trauma. And so like he actually holds off on like eating her and like killing her. And that's how she's able to survive. Which,
well, and throughout the entire movie, as I was going to say, as another kind of plot line or a parallel plot line, is this Dr. Fleming, I think it is, where she is trying to convince the psychiatric community or the mental health community about how these disorders have actually elevated these people to a different plane. So she talks about how, people have, somebody who has diabetes or something like that one of their personalities doesn't, right? And doesn't need any of that stuff. And they've kind of transcended the need for insulin and all these things. Or, anyway, so she speaks at a conference. Physiologically, where they can become, whatever. And then you see Kevin or Dennis or whoever talk about how he's like, we are superior to those that have not experienced hardship. And it's really kind of an interesting topic to talk about. You talk about these people that have experienced these things in their lives, and we see them probably from the outside looking in as broken or damaged goods, right, or whatever. But when in essence, maybe their experience truly does give them more empathy, more compassion, the ability to, succor other people, and just all of these things where maybe, not climbing on walls and bending bars and things like that, but give them greater capacity for different things than someone who hasn't experienced those things.
Right. Stronger in some sense, because it's like, the going through the fire and becoming stronger on the other end kind of a thing. They're changed because
of that. Such a really cool kind of topic, kind of underlying topic of this movie.
Yeah, absolutely. I was very interested with that.
It was like you said earlier, Steve, a lot of tight writing, like, a lot of layers to this movie. That's just kind of how I felt when I watched it. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on here. Even though if you just watch at the surface level, it's, it's still really good. But like, if you're like really paying attention to the subtle writing and the things that are being said, like, there's lots of other layers, which is going to lead me into this final scene. Now, the movie does not have a big twist that makes you reevaluate the whole movie, but there is a big reveal at the end of the movie. So the girl Casey, she ends up escaping. Right? They find a zoo worker finds her, and she's like, there are other girls that were kidnapped that are dead down there, and the doctor. But the beast, or as they end up calling it later, the Horde, because there's all these different personalities in this one body, ends up escaping. And at the very end, you're in a diner, and they're talking on the television. They're like, conflicting rumors, and we don't know if this Kevin Crumb, if he actually escaped or if he's dead. We don't know how many people. But he had this disorder, and they're kind of talking about this, and they said, we're now referring to him as the Horde because he has all these personalities. And this lady says, she's like, don't you remember there was something that happened like 15 years ago? And it's like, and they gave him a weird name too. And then all of a sudden the camera pans a little bit. Yeah, and the camera pans a little bit, and you see Bruce Willis's character, and he says, yeah, his name was Mr. Glass. And you realize that it's David, the character's David Dunn, who was the hero in the movie Unbreakable. Mm-hmm. And that reveal, you realize at that moment that this is a shared world. The world that the movie Unbreakable existed in is this same movie. And then you realize that this story was actually an origin story of a villain. Right. Of the villain, the Horde.
And it was really an untitled sequel to Unbreakable, which I love that, right? At the end, you're like, I just watched a sequel to a movie I had 15 years ago.
Now, that reveal does not actually change the movie at all.
No.
Which is great, but it does...
I love that part.
But it does, like, give you this greater sense of, like, oh, this is a connected, shared world. This is going to be this.
That's right.
Now, here's something really cool. Maybe you know this, maybe you don't. Disney made the movie Unbreakable. So, even though M. Night Shyamalan wrote these characters, and he actually wrote the character of the Horde back when he wrote Unbreakable, like, there were scenes in this movie that he actually wrote and was trying to have the Horde in that movie, but realized that like there was too much going on and he needed to separate them. But Disney owns the rights to the character of David Dunn and Mr. Glass, and so M. Night Shyamalan basically approached Disney and says, "Listen, at the tail end of this movie, I want to have Bruce Willis show up and play David Dunn, the character from Unbreakable." And he says, I can't give you any money for this. He says, but if we do a sequel based off this movie, we will split it. It'll be a joint venture together. And they made a handshake deal, and that's how they got the rights to be able to put that last scene in the film. And they asked Bruce Willis, and Bruce Willis was like, absolutely, yes. And so that's how that all kind of came to be. Now we know for sure there is going to be another movie, a third movie, that I believe they're just going to call Glass.
Yep.
And it's going to have the Horde in it, and it's going to have Mr. Glass, and it's going to have David Dunn.
And it's going to have Casey in it.
And I think it's going to have Casey in it, too.
That's right. Yep. Now, here's the question there. What do you think? Will she have superpowers? Will she be, because she is, quote unquote, broken or damaged. She's do you think that she's going to find out that she has any kind of
I don't know.
superpowers?
I don't know.
Think so.
I don't think so either. I think that would be almost too obvious.
To X-Men?
Yeah, too obvious, too X-Men, and that's not really M. Night Shyamalan's like storytelling, his way of writing. I just think it's now David Dunn we've seen this last thing that he realizes that Mr. Glass wasn't the only one, that there are these, people who have these extraordinary abilities like himself, because you remember, he found out through a series of events in the movie Unbreakable that he has these extra human abilities, basically. And now it's 15 years later and someone else is displaying these. And so it sets him up that, he's going to have to take care of this, because who's going to stop the beast? I mean, he took 2 blasts from a shotgun at point blank range and it barely pierced his skin.
Right. I guess my question, though, going back, is why would Casey's character need to be brought back if this movie is called Glass? So it's about Mr. Glass. It's about, Bruce Willis's character, and it's about the Horde. Why else would she be playing into that? I mean, the Horde doesn't need her, doesn't want her, right?
Well,
he already left her.
I don't know.
I would guess that possibly, this is just, I don't really know anything about any of this stuff, but this is just what I would say, is that David Dunn somehow needs like the information about the Horde. Like he needs to know about him, about different personalities. She watched a lot of those videos where his other personalities were talking.
That's true.
She knows she has the most firsthand experience because his doctor got killed. Otherwise, she would have been the one that would have had the most firsthand experience probably with the personalities. So my guess is she kind of teams up with him because he needs that information. She can help him out, and she wants to destroy this guy because he's so horrible. That's just my guess.
That's not a bad guess. I like it.
Yeah.
Here's what I liked about this movie and how it fits in with the others is that when I watched Unbreakable for the first time, I didn't feel like I was watching a comic book movie, even though they talked about comic books in it. And it wasn't until the very end when he's giving that speech and he's like, I set up the train bombings and I did this and I did that because, I had to find you, as a kid, the other kids used to mock me and they called me Mr. Glass. And you realize you've been watching a comic book movie this entire time. And I liked this about the movie Split. You were watching a comic book movie the entire time, basically, once again, but you don't really know it because it's not the typical, hey, we're going to wear spandex and we're going to go save people. And it's very subtle. It's very well written. It's not over the top. It's not, like the classic superhero comic book movie tropes. I loved it.
Yeah, and I love that as well. And I almost kind of hope that America's love for superheroes maybe starts to morph into something more like that, where it's these more subtle, more story, plot-driven, as opposed to shiny, metallic this and that and the other. And I wonder, with something like Wonder Woman, where there was a lot of plot and other stories, and I don't know, maybe that it goes more this way. That's what I loved about it. At the end, knowing that, you're right, this was a comic book movie about superheroes, but really it was a story about, people's lives and trauma that they endured. And
you got
awesome.
to see the birth of a villain.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a little intense, a little scary, a little freaky at times, some serious subject matter, but in the end, like a very excellent movie. Definitely worth seeing, in my opinion.
Yep. Very cool. Well, I think that wraps up our movie club for this month. We are so glad that you stuck around to listen to some of our thoughts. Spence, do we have a question for this week?
You know what? No, I think we're gonna flip the script again, and we're gonna let our super friends ask us questions. And next week we will do some answers on the Fortress of Nerditude.
That's right. So those questions can be about the topic at hand today with the movie club, or anything we talked about this week, or nothing related at all. And we love reaching out to you guys. We love hearing back from you guys. So keep listening, and we'll keep talking. May the Force be with you always.